Welcome to Indie HR Dialogues, the Executive Read, where we pull out the big ideas from the books that are shaping leaders today. And hey, if you like what you hear today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get a new episode every time we release one right to your feed. Today we are diving into Extraordinary Comebacks. It's a book with over 201 stories about people bouncing back from setbacks. And not just bouncing back, like really reaching new heights.
Yeah. It's really all about the resilience of the human spirit. You know, we're talking about business titans and artists and athletes, even everyday people who just refuse to let failure be the final word.
Exactly. And the book's introduction does a really great job of highlighting two key elements that all these comeback stories have in common. First, an absolute refusal to quit. They might pause or they might, change direction a little bit.
Yeah.
But that core passion never dies.
Yeah. And fueling that fire is the second element, this inner strength and resilience, this ability to bend without breaking. A lot of times they come back even stronger because of what they went through.
It's like they were forged in the fire, right? It's not just the after, it's the how that's so important.
Right. The mindset is everything. And what's fascinating is how these comebacks play out in so many different areas. You've got adventure, the arts, athletics, business. This comeback spirit is everywhere.
So let's start with adventure. Extraordinary Comebacks talks about Sir Edmund Hillary's second attempt on Mount Everest. The first one did not go well. Doubt crept in and he had to turn back. And he went back.
Oh, yeah. Imagine that. You're on the slopes of Everest. It's freezing cold. You're completely exhausted, and this mountain is just looming over you. It would be so easy to say, I'm never doing that again.
Absolutely. But Hillary pushed through those doubts. Did he have some kind of mental trick? Or like a strategy to overcome the fear?
Well, he realized that the mountain itself wasn't actually the biggest obstacle. It was the fear and uncertainty that he felt inside. So he focused on conquering his inner Everest, so to speak. He really took that first experience to heart and used it to prepare mentally and physically. And, that's something that we can all do in our lives, no matter what our own personal Everest might be.
Conquer the fear first. I love that. Now, switching gears a bit, in the art section, there's this great example about Picasso. He goes through this very sad blue period, but then his art just explodes with innovation.
It's almost like he was using his art to work through his grief, to turn his pain into something beautiful and creative. And this shows us that even in those really dark moments, there's always the potential for growth and transformation.
So even when things are really tough, that creative spark can still be there, just waiting to be rekindled.
Exactly. And then you've got Norman Rockwell. He was kind of dismissed by a lot of people in the art world during his lifetime, but decades later, his work is celebrated. It's a reminder that recognition can be a matter of perspective and timing. It might not happen right away, but that doesn't mean that your work isn't valuable.
Stay true to your vision. Okay, let's jump into athletics. The book talks about the Boston Red Sox 2004 World Series win. They were down 3-0 against the Yankees. Pretty much everyone thought they were done.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that the Red Sox didn't fall apart under that pressure. They just shifted their focus to winning one game at a time. And as they started to win, that momentum shifted. The Yankees started to doubt themselves. This comeback story is all about perseverance, but also about the power of momentum and belief.
Don't let the score define you. Keep fighting. Okay, we've got time for one more before we hit a break. And I have to say, Lance Armstrong's story is mind-blowing. 7 Tour de France wins after battling cancer. How is that even possible?
It's about pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible. Armstrong's story really challenges our notions about the limits of the human body. But what's even more remarkable is his mental toughness. He used visualization and positive self-talk, and he surrounded himself with a supportive team. He literally willed himself to get better and compete at the highest level.
Wow. That is next-level resilience. Now, before you move on, I want to remind everyone listening that we have a link in the episode description where you can get your own copy of Extraordinary Comebacks. If you want to dig into these inspiring journeys for yourself, definitely don't miss out on this. We'll be back in a moment with even more inspiring examples of this comeback spirit, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to India HR Dialogues, the Executive Read. We're in the middle of our deep dive into extraordinary comebacks, looking at all these inspiring stories of people who didn't just bounce back from setbacks, but really soared to new heights.
Yeah, and we're ready to dive into some more inspiring stories, this time from the world of business. Wally Amos comes to mind. He lost his cookie company, but did he give up?
No, not at all. He took all that passion and entrepreneurial spirit and channeled it into a whole new venture. It's a great example of how setbacks don't have to define us. We can reinvent ourselves, tap into a new market, build something new from scratch.
It's about adaptability, right?
Yeah.
About pivoting when you need to and finding new ways to express those passions. Speaking of pivoting, the book also talks about Jim Clark, the co-founder of Netscape. He was pushed out of Silicon Graphics. But he didn't just sit around feeling sorry for himself.
Yeah, what's fascinating about Clark is that he used his experience at Silicon Graphics, even the bad parts, to see this huge opportunity, the internet. He saw the potential before almost anyone else did, and he took a risk and created something really groundbreaking.
So he didn't just bounce back, he bounced back with a bigger vision. It's like he saw that setback as a chance to level up.
Exactly. That's something we see a lot in these comeback stories. It's not just about returning to where they were before, it's about reaching a whole new level.
Now, Paula Deen's story is a classic example of hard work and hustle. She faced all these setbacks, but she never gave up on her dream.
Dean's journey is all about persistence, but it's also about the power of relationships. That chance encounter with a publishing professional is what led to her first cookbook. And then there was that time the USA Today food editor just happened to eat at her restaurant. These seemingly small moments can have a huge impact on the direction of our careers.
Yeah, you've got to be open to those opportunities, recognize them, and have guts to seize them. Okay, let's step into the world of film, television, and show business. Art Carney's story is a powerful one. He wins an Academy Award for Harry and Tonto after having a nervous breakdown and going through treatment.
Oh, wow. It's a great reminder that even when we face really serious personal challenges, recovery is possible. And not just recovery, but reaching the top of your field. Carney's story really underscores how important resilience is and, seeking support when you need it.
And of course, there's Walt Disney. He had tons of early failures. He even got fired from a job for not being able to draw. But he went on to build a global animation empire.
Disney's story shows us that it's so important to learn from your failures and then use those experiences to help you succeed in the future. He didn't let those setbacks define him. Instead, he used them to refine his vision and improve his craft. He never gave up on his dream.
Talk about believing in yourself, even when other people don't. And speaking of believing in yourself, Sylvester Stallone was offered a ton of money to sell his Rocky screenplay. But he refused unless he could star in the movie.
He knew that Rocky was more than just a script. It was a part of him, it was his vision, and he was determined to see it through. And look, his unwavering belief paid off. Rocky became a global sensation. It connected with audiences everywhere.
It's about knowing your worth and not settling for anything less than what you believe in. Now let's shift gears to a different kind of fight, the fight for justice. Aaron Brockovich took on this powerful corporation and exposed their environmental crimes, all while facing all kinds of obstacles.
Brockovich's story is a great reminder that we all have a voice, and we can use it to push for positive change. It's about courage and standing up for what's right, even when it's really hard.
And sometimes that fight for justice becomes very personal. In the literature section of the book, we have Stephen King. He was hit by a van and seriously injured. But just 5 weeks later, he was writing again.
Wow. For King, writing became a form of therapy, a way to process the trauma and find meaning in the midst of all that pain. It shows us how creative pursuits can really help us to heal and reclaim our lives.
It's about finding that outlet, the thing that helps us to heal and move forward. And then there's J.K. Rowling. She was a single mom struggling financially, and publishers just kept rejecting Harry Potter, but she kept going.
Rowling's story just shows the importance of believing in your vision, even when others don't. She had so much faith in her story, and that belief, coupled with her sheer determination, led to a global phenomenon.
Talk about persistence paying off. Okay, let's move on to the world of music, where we see some amazing comebacks in the face of some really tough challenges. Franz Schubert, the classical composer, he accomplished so much in such a short life.
His Symphony No. 9 was overlooked for a while, but now it's considered a masterpiece. Schubert's story is a testament to artistic passion and dedication. Sometimes recognition comes later, but that doesn't change the value of the work.
It's about that creative journey, the passion that drives us, whether we get validation or not. And in pop music, we've got Tony Bennett. His career was revived with the help of his son.
It's a great example of the power of family and the ability to adapt. Bennett was able to connect with a whole new generation of fans, but he stayed true to his musical roots. It shows us that reinvention can be a team effort, and that having a good support system can make all the difference.
And then there's Chuck Berry, one of the founders of rock and roll. His career was full of controversy and setbacks, but he never stopped making music.
Berry's story shows how important resilience and innovation are when you're trying to navigate a difficult career. He faced criticism, legal battles, all kinds of things. But he kept creating and pushing boundaries. His music continues to inspire and influence musicians even today.
He had that unwavering dedication to his craft, that drive to keep creating no matter what. Okay, we have time for one more before we wrap up this section. And Dr. Woo-sik Chung's story is incredible. His hands were severed as a child.
Oh my gosh, just imagine the trauma and uncertainty. But his father, who was a doctor, was able to reattach them. And Dr. Chung went on to become a surgeon himself.
That is turning tragedy into triumph. I can't even imagine the kind of resilience and determination it took for him to overcome that and achieve his dreams.
Absolutely. His story is such a powerful testament to the human body's ability to heal and the incredible strength of the human spirit. It shows us that even when we face truly unimaginable hardship, we can find a way not just to recover, but to flourish.
Welcome back to India HR Dialogues, the Executive Read. We're wrapping up our deep dive into extraordinary comebacks. And honestly, these stories are really making me think about just how powerful the human spirit can be, to overcome pretty much anything.
Absolutely. We've seen people from every walk of life, athletes, artists, business leaders, you name it. They've all faced these incredible challenges and come out stronger on the other side. And now we're going to look at comebacks in politics, poverty science, even spirituality.
Let's start with politics and public service. The book talks about Max Cleland, a Vietnam War veteran who lost 3 limbs in combat. And you'd think that would just crush someone, but he dedicated his life to serving others.
It's amazing. Cleland's story is such a great example of finding purpose in serving something bigger than yourself. He took all that pain and used it to advocate for veterans and work towards a better world for everyone.
Yeah, like he turned this personal tragedy into a force for good. And then you have John F. Kennedy, who wrote his Pulitzer Prize-winning book Profiles in Courage while he was recovering from back surgery. Talk about making the most of a tough situation.
I know it's incredible. He could have just focused on his pain and the limitations, but instead he chose to really engage his mind, to learn about other people who had shown incredible courage. It's a good reminder that even when we're facing setbacks, our minds can be incredibly powerful.
Totally. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about those who have overcome poverty and not only survived, but created real positive change. The book highlights Paul Polak, who went from being a psychiatrist to empowering people in developing countries through these small-scale investments.
Polak realized that lasting change comes from giving people the tools to help themselves, not from forcing solutions on them from the outside. So he focused on understanding their needs and building solutions that worked within their communities.
It's about creating opportunities for growth, not just giving handouts. And then there's this amazing story of Emmanuel Ofosu Yeboah, who rode his bicycle across Ghana with only one leg, just to challenge how people think about disability.
Wow. And he didn't just face the physical difficulty of biking that far with one leg, he also had to deal with all the prejudice and stereotypes about disability. It was a powerful statement about the potential of people with disabilities and how important it is to challenge those limiting beliefs.
He turned his personal challenge into a platform to advocate for others and inspire people. It's really something. Okay, let's dive into the world of science, where we see these incredible comebacks fueled by determination and just refusing to give up. Carlson spent 2 decades developing the Xerox copier, facing poverty and all kinds of doubt from people along the way.
Carson's story is all about believing in your idea and just never giving up on solving the problem. He just kept refining his invention, finding new partners, overcoming obstacles, until he changed the way we all share information.
It shows that big innovations often take time and a lot of persistence and a willingness to learn from mistakes. And speaking of groundbreaking innovations, there's Albert Einstein. He struggled in school, had trouble finding work, and then completely revolutionized science with his theory of relativity.
Einstein didn't fit in with the usual academic crowd, and his unique way of thinking led him to challenge all the accepted scientific ideas. His story shows us that brilliance can come from anywhere, and sometimes it's the people who don't fit in who end up changing the world.
And finally, let's explore spirituality, where we see how people have found strength and resilience through their faith and their desire to make the world better. Mukhtar Mai was brutally attacked, but she refused to be silenced and instead became an advocate for women's rights and education.
Her story is a testament to the power of turning pain into positive action. She could have easily just stayed a victim, but instead she became a survivor and used her experience to empower other women and fight injustice.
Yeah, she took that horrible experience and used it to create a movement for change. And then there's Harold Kushner, who wrote, "When bad things happen to good people after losing his son, his exploration of faith and suffering has helped so many people find meaning when facing tragedy."
Kushner's story reminds us that even in the darkest times, we can find a way to understand our experiences and use that to help other people. His work has brought comfort and guidance to countless people who are struggling with loss and trying to find meaning.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into extraordinary comebacks, what are some of the big takeaways our listeners can apply to their own lives?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to remember that setbacks are a part of life, but they don't have to control us. We all have the ability to be resilient, to bounce back and achieve great things. Also, it's important to cultivate a mindset of perseverance. Believe in your vision even when others don't, keep learning from your experiences, and never give up on your dreams.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it, whether it's from family or friends or mentors or even a therapist. Having a strong support system can make all the difference.
Absolutely.
And to our listeners, don't forget we have a link in the show notes where you can buy your own copy of Extraordinary Comebacks and learn more about these inspiring journeys. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to Indie HR Dialogues, the Executive Read, for more insightful discussions of the books shaping leaders today. Thanks for listening.